Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today I'm going to be looking at the Amazon's Spartans decks from Design Studio 7th Nation and designer Sviatoslav Pashchuk. These decks were released on Kickstarter and were originally inspired by the famed Amazonian warriors, a tribe of females who fought valiantly through legends, primarily in Greek and Roman mythology. Now, the deck itself, is meant to be part of a series called Amazons, and it's really more about looking at female warriors through a variety of different cultures. So this first one, the Spartans, goes back to the original Amazons and is inspired by Greek and Roman mythology, but there's also future decks that are planned looking at Amazons through the lens of samurai as well as Viking warriors. And it's not meant to be a historically accurate or even mythologically accurate deck, but rather looks at a sort of reimagining of female warriors through the lens of these famous cultures. So it's a really interesting concept to me, and so excited to jump into it and see how they did. Now, this deck comes in two different versions. You have the Ephebes version over here on the left, and then on the right is the Ephros version. The Ephebes, which is the name for an adolescent warrior in training. That was the original deck. And then the Ephros, named for a Greek historian, was a stretch goal that was met. So there's the two different versions of the deck, but let's jump into it and find out more, starting with the Ephebes version. So we'll put Ephros off to the side. The Ephebes version is done in a really beautiful maroon colored tuck with tons of foil in multiple colors. You've got gold and green really prominent, but also little hits of black foil that you can see there as well. The center of the deck has the name of it, Amazon's Spartans, and then 54 premium playing cards. You can see this is a volume 1 version of it on these little banners down here at the bottom. And the overall design is kind of meant to mimic a large shield shape there. It has lots of different little touches from the 7th Nation logo there, the entwined S and N. You've got the 4 different suits and the 4 different sides of it, as well as this really cool Spartan-inspired design. So it's almost like a shield, but then you've got the Spartan helmet and the swords crossed in the back. A really beautiful Greek-inspired design. Around the border, you can see it says "Aut cum scuto, aut in scuto." That's a Latin phrase. Translated means either with the shield or on it. Pretty cool story. That was something that was said by Spartan mothers to their sons as they went off into battle. And it literally was, talking about how they either needed to come back with their shield in hand, victorious, or on their shields being carried back after having died gloriously in battle. So very interesting sentiment that speaks to the importance of battle and valor and honor for the Spartans. The bottom here is an entwined, I think it's an alpha and omega put together. And then you have all these elements around the side that are kind of Greek inspired, including primarily these large columns running down the side. The top says epic tale, and then down the sides you've got a couple of other Latin sayings. It says bellum omnium contra omnes. That translates to the war of all against all. It's in Latin, but it doesn't come from Greek or Roman times. It's actually from Thomas Hobbes in 1600, and this statement on human existence. Basically this idea that at our core, we are all at war with each other. That's kind of our natural state. The bottom has some Roman numerals, including 2017 and 2019. I believe 2017 is when 7th Nation started, and 2019 is when this deck was originally created. So very cool front to the tuck. I love the use of the foil and embossing. Very reminiscent to me of a Theory 11 tuck case, which to me is one of the highest praises you can pay to a tuck case because I think they do a phenomenal job. On the sides, you've got Amazon's Spartans playing cards. Same thing on the other side, as well as the top of the deck. Bottom has some very simple ad copy for USPCC, who printed the deck. And the back here is going to be a modified version of the back design of the cards, done up in tons of foiling and embossing. Lots of beautiful details, a few extra mentions of kind of ad copy for 7th Nation and USPCC on there as well. But we'll look more at some of those details in a second. The inner flap doesn't have much printing, just has this little bit of green striping there, which is just meant to line up when you have the deck sealed. Nice little extra touch. And nothing else printed on the inner flaps or the interior of the tuck. So really nicely done tuck. Love the colors, love that maroon especially. Very nice feel to that. Now let's look at the cards themselves, and we'll start with the back design. Really unique color scheme going in this. I will call it right away. You'll see USPCC, not always the best with the centering. That's USPCC, not necessary with the 7th Nation with this deck. But the back design is a really beautiful explosion of color. I love that use of kind of a yellow orange combined with that aqua color and the maroon lines throughout. It's a really interesting combination of colors and one you don't see often. Lots of details, including the large shield there. In the center, you've got another version of the shield with kind of an entwined set of lambdas, Greek letters. The lambda was something that the Spartans had on their shield as a nod to their region that they were from. And then you've got those columns again with the spears on them, and it's all done in a way to kind of make it a two-way back design. I've got Spartans written here on one banner, and then on this other banner up here, you've got the words Molon Lave. That one translates to come and take them. That one actually does come from Spartan lore. If you've seen the most famous story of the Spartans with King Leonidas and the 300 Spartan warriors who fought against the Persians, this is a saying, come and take them, that King Leonidas supposedly said to Xerxes, the invading king of the Persians, when he demanded that the Spartans surrender their weapons. So very cool nod on that one. You got those Roman numerals at the top and the bottom as well. Now, I will say, while this was intended to be a two-way back design, there is a slight error. You'll see here, you've got the Roman numerals, but if I flip it over, they're kind of done in reverse. So they didn't quite get that right as they were trying to reverse this and make it a two-way design. So a little bit frustrating on that, but not too bad or too noticeable, honestly. So really beautifully done with that medium poker border around the edge. Now let's get into the cards, and we'll start with the two jokers. Here they are, and you get a little bit of a feel for Sviatoslav's fantastic talent as an artist. Digitally created art. You've got Joker in the corners, and the two jokers just represent female warriors, maybe not necessarily female warriors going out to battle, but you can see some of the implements in their hands. So one of them has the dagger that she's just sort of sitting there kind of reclined and playing around with the dagger. The other one has a Spartan helmet and a spear in her hands. They're both wearing these white robes, so definitely not dressed for battle, but you can see the beautiful artwork and detail that goes into those characters. Just really beautifully drawn and provocative characters. Really love that artwork style. Almost a photorealistic quality to them. Really fantastically done. So there's your two jokers. You do get a gaff card, a double backer, and an extra card. This was another one of the stretch goals. This is a card for Pentacelia. Pentacelia was actually one of the Amazonian warriors. She was one of the queens of the Amazons. And according to legend, she fought and died while assisting Troy during the Trojan War. She fell to Achilles, one of the greatest warriors of all time. According to the legend, she actually may have killed Achilles before Zeus raised Achilles from the dead, and she ultimately did fall. So really beautiful with the lilies in her hands and the crossed arms, and just that striking look to her. Very beautiful card. So love that as an extra card. Now let's get into the rest of the deck, and we'll start with the aces. Here's the ace of spades. Really beautiful Greek architecture in the background. Large spade pip with that Spartan helmet and shield. Have the volume 1. A lot of the same elements that we've looked at before. Mentions that these are the Spartans, Amazons cards. And a fairly standard pip and index. Slightly custom pip in the corner, but fairly standard. Got those wavy lines radiating it out. Just all in black and white, but a really beautiful design. All four of the aces are going to continue with a really interesting pattern, so almost kind of a power ace feel to them. Not quite as extravagant as the ace of spades, but the diamond is going to feature a small diamond pip, but then surrounded by almost kind of a sunburst, very Greek inspired with the different patterning and those kind of wavy line sun. You zoom in real close, you'll see another Latin phrase make its appearance. This one's sic transit gloria mundi. That one translates to thus passes worldly glory. Another one that, while in Latin, not inspired by the Greeks or the Romans, that's actually from Catholicism. These are words that were used in papal coronation ceremonies and just kind of a statement to the transitory nature of earthly honor. Turning to the clubs, another one of the same designs with the club in the middle. New Latin phrase, this one, aut vincere, aut mori. That one means either to conquer or to die. That saying was actually used during the War of the Roses, so another one that's a more modern, but Latin and very kind of fitting with the theme in its own way. And then the Ace of Hearts, same design, new Latin phrase, this time, amor etiam deos tangit. And that one means love touches even gods. So kind of a softer message on that one about how love kind of crosses all boundaries. So very cool set of aces. Love the look of those. The number cards are probably the plainest part of this whole thing. Nothing really special at all on the numbers. Kind of smaller pips, slightly custom, but otherwise pretty standard layout. Pip and index in the corner, nothing much to speak of there. Same as you go through the diamond, so just classic black and red. Very functional. Wish that there'd been a little bit of customization on these, but as we can see when we get to the quartz, definitely makes up for it there. So real quick run through these and through the hearts. You can get a quick look at those. But now we get to the quartz, and this is really, just like we saw with the Jokers, where the artwork gets a chance to shine. They're all done as two-way quartz, and each one depicts a female warrior. Now, the style of the armor and the weaponry you see here is meant to be really closely mimicked to the Spartan style. But of course, the female warriors are not famous historical warriors of any sort. So they're just sort of imagining of the beautiful warriors, the female warriors put into that context. I love the realistic looking faces, the flowing cloth kind of giving motion to it. It is done as a two-way back design, has a very simple border, and just the weaponry in the hands gives it a really powerful and yet really beautiful look to it. So there's a little bit of a close-up of the first of our female warriors there. I love this one. The helmet is one of my favorite implements in the whole thing here in the jacket Spades. And here's the other two of the spade quartz. You can see all different styles, very prominent plume on the helmet, Spartan helmet on the king and the queen there as well. Then you turn to the diamond quartz, a little bit more red or lighter hair on these, but three more beautiful. This one's one of my favorite ones. Love the striking hair and the kind of look in her eye on that one. So three more quartz, and then into the clubs, three more female quartz. You can see definitely kind of a different style, feel, all very individually illustrated and kind of each given their own little bit of character throughout. And then last but not least are the heart quartz. Again, more just really beautifully drawn quartz. So definitely provocative, not necessarily historically modeled, but beautiful nonetheless. Love that art style. So that is the deck. That's the Ephebes deck. All the handling and everything is USB-CC, so they're going to handle beautifully. No complaints there. But before we wrap up with thoughts of the deck, let's take a second and cross over and look at the Ephoros deck. I mentioned this was a stretch goal. Largely, it's a recolored version of the deck. There are some changes though as we get into it. Starting with the tuck case, it's just a black. This time the foil is now just black, gold, and silver. Really beautifully embossed, same beautiful designs all the way through. Just the colors are now swapped out, so less of those greens. I personally like the original deck better, just a more unique color design, but this one's beautiful in its own right. Getting into the cards themselves, you also have a swapped out back design, same elements on it. They did fix that two-way error with the Roman numerals, so on this deck it is actually corrected, but this time it's done in black, silver, metallic inks, and that same blue. So that blue does carry over, but now it's silver and black instead of the yellow and maroon. Again, like the other deck better. If this had been the only deck produced, I think I would have loved it. But having seen the other deck, I think I like that one a little bit better. So still really beautiful in its own right. And then as we get into the cards, for the most part, these are going to be the same. The courts, though, are done a little bit differently. Each one of the courts is kind of given a rougher look to them, if you will. The background is now kind of this broken rock pattern, and on each one of the cards, they're given a slight difference, just you kind of give them a little bit more of a feel. So like on this one, the eye patch is added. Here you've got that kind of mask covering up half of her face. And on this one, you have this scarring across her face. Let me see if I can get one of the other courts from here just to see it as a side-by-side comparison. So here's the King of Spades in each one of the decks. So over here on the left, you've got the original Ephebes, and then you've got the extra scarring added on her face for the Ephros version. So giving it a little bit of a different feel. And that continues through the rest of the courts on these. So the heart courts, more of the same, kind of different little implements added. I will say some of them are done a little bit better than others. I love the tattoo work on this one, but like on this one, I think the mask looks a little bit just kind of photoshopped on top instead of really worked into the design. So I think some of them are done slightly better than others, but all in all, really beautiful addition to add that extra little bit into these cards. So that's really the only difference in them. Otherwise, so you got the backs and the different courts, but otherwise very similar feel to these. So the deck overall, I think it's a great deck for a lot of different purposes. I think as an art deck is really going to be where it's going to find its primary home. That's really going to be where it's at its strongest, is as an art deck. That said, it's definitely functional enough to where you could use it for gameplay, even for Magic, I suppose, maybe a little bit heavily customized for Magic. But you could absolutely use this for gameplay as a really striking and beautiful example. Handles well enough for cardistry, definitely not a design that's meant for cardistry. But like I said, I think an art deck is really where it's going to find its home. I was really intrigued by the deck. I think it definitely is not a deck that's meant to be historically accurate. And if I was looking at it from that lens, I think I would be a little bit frustrated. All of that said, that's not the goal of the deck. It's meant to be inspired by kind of this melding of female warriors with these different cultures. And in that regard, I think it's incredibly successful. The artwork's beautiful, etc. It's not meant to be, hey, let's go tell the story of Hippolyta and the Amazonian warriors. It's not that. So looking at it for what it is, I think it's a highly successful deck. I love it. Cannot wait to see some of the future Amazons decks that are upcoming. So let me know what else you thought of the deck down in the comments. I'm really curious to know your thoughts. And subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.